Joining me now, we have New Jersey Congresswoman Analiha Mejia. Congresswoman, welcome. Good to see you. So you are running for re-election in November after winning an April special election following your surprise Democratic primary win. You are once again facing Republican Joe Hathaway, who called your term a complete failure and said you're in lockstep with radical socialist candidates. I'd love to hear your response to those comments. And what is your message to voters about why you should keep your seat?
Well, first and foremost, I'm excited to be here with you. And again, I am so deeply troubled, like many individuals across this country, at what I'm seeing at the highest level of government and how it trickles down to everyday people's lives. You know, the fact remains that the cost of living, we are worse off today than we were even a year ago. The cost of gasoline is sky high. The cost of groceries are sky high. Healthcare costs have tripled. I have families in my district who have shared the pain of even something as simple as a family vacation this summer is completely out of reach because of the policies of Donald Trump and those who support him, like my opponent. You know, I'm a mother of 2 children, and when my sons have nothing constructive to say or losing an argument, they resort to name calling. So that's my reaction to my opponent's name calling. And instead, I focus on the issues that are keeping New Jersey 11 constituents, my constituents, up at night. The bottom line is that we have a rigged economy and a rigged democracy where we have a full Democratic backslide. And it is on Congress to make sure that we restore the integrity of our democratic institutions.
I know, ma'am, that you are campaigning on a populist, anti-corporate platform. You have been endorsed by lawmakers from both the progressive and establishment wings of the Democratic Party. But where do you land in today's debate over the direction of the party? Because with Republicans on their back foot, is it potentially self-defeating for Democrats to be fighting over the soul of the party right now?
Well, first of all, what I talk about is not left or right. I talk about right and wrong. It is wrong that members of Congress are essentially trading stocks for the companies that they're supposed to regulate. It is wrong that we have allowed this president to enrich himself and his family without taking concrete action. It is wrong that our Supreme Court has been taken over by ideological extremists, and they're reversing course on precedent established across our nation's history. It is wrong that everyday American people have to fear their own government, are unable to take care of themselves and their families. This isn't about left or right. This is about what's right and wrong for the American people. I think that our democracy, that our Democratic Party, what we are seeing in terms of new candidates, different people running for office like myself, is actually an indicator of the vibrancy, of the wellness of our Democratic Party. See, because when I look at my Republican counterparts, I see a bunch of people who are lockstep with a president that most of the time behind closed doors, they don't agree with, but they are so scared to take action that they are unwilling to buck their own party. Whereas the Democratic Party is full of new leadership, emerging leadership, and folks who understand the way in which good policy making gets done. That's what we're going to do these midterms. That's what I'm fighting for. And when I listen to my constituents, that's what they care about.
On a significantly different note, 3 detainees have died over the past 8 months at New Jersey's Delaney Hall ICE Detention Center, raising some alarms about medical neglect at the facility. And on Tuesday, you, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and Congressman Rob Menendez, met with some of their families who report inadequate treatment and ignored medical emergencies. Federal officials all maintain detainees get proper care, but what did they tell you about the conditions inside those facilities?
I mean, the American people are aghast that 55 individuals have died at detention centers since the beginning of Donald Trump's second term. At Delaney Hall, we've heard of 3 confirmed deaths associated at Delaney Hall, but we also know that because this administration changed its reporting policies, there are deaths that occurred that happened upon moments of being released from Delaney Delaney Hall. And because Delaney Hall changed, or DHS changed their reporting conditions, the American people are none the wiser. And every single American should, in fact, care about. We should all be concerned that we have a government that has taken a group of people, many of which do not have criminal records. The truth is, Donald Trump said that he was going to go for the worst of the worst, but instead he's capturing grandmas and gardeners. You have individuals who are in process, some of them caught at courts, at their court appointments before they're able to proceed with their legal proceedings. But we cannot, every American should care that if our government is able to take people who up until recently had legal status, like those with DACA or TPS, and then put them in prison-like conditions and in effect give them death sentences if they have chronic health conditions, every single American should care. Because if our government can do that to people who have the protection of our Constitution, which every single individual in America, in fact, has due process and equal protection rights, then our government can do that to you. That is why I'm fighting so hard to ensure that there's transparency. That is why I'm fighting so hard to ensure that there is actual care for medical care and humane treatment for those who are in U.S. custody, because we cannot allow our government to act in such a deplorable way. It's just not fair. It's not right. And it could harm every single person, citizens and non-citizens alike.
As you know, the Trump administration reportedly plans to spend about $20 million equipping immigration officers with gloves that deliver powerful electric shocks. DHS has described these gloves as a de-escalation device that could help reduce physical confrontations. But given the notoriously excessive use of force by ICE agents, any concerns about potential abuse of power these gloves could encourage?
I mean, of course, every single American watched in horror as ICE agents, as DHS agents turned their guns on the American people. We will not forget Minnesota. We will not forget the murders of Renee Good and Mr. Petty. So we need to understand that if we have, again, a government that is willing to turn its guns on its people, a government that is willing to deny us information, a government that is willing to harm people who just recently had legal status, and our government is acting in a way that goes beyond anything that everyday Americans will accept. I have to say that that $20 million is better spent on ensuring that ICE agents have training. You know, as a member of Congress, I've spoken to Capitol Police, I've spoken to state and local police, and so many tell me that they know that there is a lack of training, de-escalation training, that in fact is at play here. If DHS officers, ICE agents had better training, they'd be able to de-escalate situations and would not have the need of these magic gloves that will harm the American people.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these demonstration videos. Wow. So finally, this week, a Virginia woman, Caroline Molina, posted a video, and it shows a masked ICE agent pointing a gun at her as she filmed him with her cell phone during an ICE operation. Molina says agents blocked her vehicle after she confronted them. DHS claims she tried to endanger officials, which she denies. And by the way, dash cam footage does not show her trying to hit them. So what is your response to this? What kind of questions do you have for DHS about this agent's conduct?
Actually, my question is to my colleagues and my fellow Americans. How long are we going to allow a rogue, despotic agency that is only beholden to, again, a corrupt president? How long are we going to allow this to continue? The reality is that we have given ICE billions of dollars. We've allowed them to essentially undermine the very fabric of our democracy, the very fabric of our law, our rule of law. We need to, I'm glad that there are dash cam cameras that can capture that they're in fact not telling the truth to the American people. This is why I believe that ICE has to be abolished and replaced. We of course, there's no one, I am not advocating for a free for all in our immigration system, but it is unconscionable that we are allowing these untrained agents across our streets to point guns at the American people and put us all at harm. What kind of nation are we leaving our children and future generations? It is on us right now to ensure that we fight against it. And again, doesn't matter your position on immigration or immigration reform, every single one of us should uphold our Constitution. And our Constitution says that we all have due process, equal protection rights, that very clearly that ICE agent is breaking against that woman.
Congresswoman Ana Lela Mejia, thank you very much for your time with us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.